The cheetah is the fastest land animal alive, and it's also one of the worst designed apex hunters in the entire game. Full sprint burns through its stamina bar in under a minute, 30 seconds, sometimes less, and then it's done, gasping, completely unable to defend the kill it just risked everything to get. Hyenas steal it. Lions steal it. A cheetah that misses its first burst doesn't get a second chance. It just failed, expensively. One stat maxed all the way to the top of the leaderboard. Every other stat sacrificed to pay for it. That's not a flaw in the build. That is the build. And it's the exact shape of the George S. Patton problem. November 3rd, 1943. A field hospital tent in Sicily. Patton walks up to a soldier, shaking on a cot with no visible wound, slaps him across the face with a glove, calls him a coward in front of the entire ward. Within 48 hours, it's a national scandal, and Eisenhower nearly benches him for good. 11 months later, that same general is running the single fastest sustained armoured advance in the war's history. Hundreds of miles in a matter of weeks. So fast, his own fuel supply couldn't keep pace, and offensive operations briefly had to pause, just so logistics could catch up. Same animal, same maxed stat. The question isn't whether Patton is good or bad, it's whether one stat maxed this hard is worth everything it costs to run. Trace the build from the start, and the pattern's there before he ever sees combat. West Point, 1909. Mid-pack graduate. The 1912 Olympic pentathlon, missing a medal by a single placement and treating it like a personal wipe. First real combat log in 1916, chasing Pancho Villa through Mexico, under Pershing. An off-script raid, several kills, bodies strapped to the hood of his car like trophies. High risk, immediate payoff, zero patient stat allocated anywhere. In World War I, he's one of the only officers who clocks that tanks are the future, while the rest of the roster is still betting on cavalry, and he takes a leg wound at the Meuse-Argonne, advancing on foot ahead of his own tanks, because the radios failed, and he refused to lose sight of his unit. Every version of this build makes the same trade. Burn the sprint stat, worry about the landing later. Then the build sits benched for 20 years. The interwar army shrinks, funding for the tank archetype dries up completely, and Patton spends 2 decades as a nobody wants to draft, obsessed with a build the rest of the meta has abandoned. This is the part that actually matters and gets skipped in the highlight reel. A cheetah standing still isn't impressive. Elite acceleration only means anything the instant the chase actually starts, and for 20 years, Patton's version of the chase never started. North Africa, February 1943, is the patch that changes everything. American forces get mauled at Kasserine Pass, and the theatre needs someone to fix a broken corps in weeks, not years. Patton takes over II Corps, enforces discipline so severe soldiers joke he'll fine an unbuttoned collar, and within a month the Corps is winning again. This is the tell that separates Patton from a cheetah that's all sprint and no other function. The theatrics, the sidearms, the profanity, the uniform aren't cosmetic. They're a buff he applies to his own team's aggression stat, the equivalent of a hunt that starts before the actual chase does, positioning the whole pack to close distance faster. Sicily is where the speed stat gets fully exposed, flaws included. He races a rival British unit to Messina and wins, a symbolic clear that costs more in casualties than the objective was worth. And it's also where the slapping incidents happen, twice. That's the honest version of the cheetah problem. You cannot separate the stat from its cost. The same aggression that wins the race to Messina is the aggression that makes him strike 2 shell-shocked soldiers. There's no respec that keeps the speed and drops the recklessness. It's one stat, and it comes as a package. Eisenhower benches him again, nearly a full year in command purgatory, while other units get the glory clear at Normandy. Then August 1944, Third Army. And he does the one thing almost nobody else in the entire war manages, breaks out and simply doesn't stop moving. The real test comes that December, Battle of the Bulge, the 101st Airborne besieged at Bastogne. In a room full of Allied commanders, someone asks how fast Third Army can pivot its entire axis of attack. He says 2 days. Nobody in that room believes a full army can turn that fast, in winter, over ice. He does it in 48 hours, arriving December 26th, and it's the one moment in the whole war where the Cheetah's burst wasn't wasted, wasn't reckless, wasn't a symbolic race. It was exactly the tool the situation needed, at exactly the moment it needed it. So was Patton a genius? Not in the slow, load-bearing, every stat balanced sense. Eisenhower, Bradley, Montgomery all outplayed him in the political meta, and at points in the actual planning. What Patton had, and almost nobody else on that roster had, was a single max stat: the ability to convert an opening into forward motion before the enemy could patch the exploit. That's not the same as being the best build overall. Against the right target, at the right moment, it might be worth more. Tier verdict: A tier overall build, S tier in exactly one matchup. Anything that rewards converting an opening before the enemy reacts. Speed with almost no defense stat is one way to build a war machine. The other way is to just build the thickest, heaviest, most armoured thing anyone's ever fielded and dare the enemy to find a way through it. Is the main battle tank still OP? That's next.